Okay, so today we're diving into something pretty wild, like really out there.
Out there is putting it mildly.
Right. We're talking about the idea that Earth is a prison planet.
Exactly, a prison planet. And buckle up, because the source material for this one is, well, it's a trip.
Yeah, not our usual peer-reviewed journal article,
Now, we're looking at a slide presentation
slide presentation.
titled Earth, the Prison Planet.
Catchy.
It is.
Yes.
And it's by someone named Mohsen Paul Sarfarazi, who has a PhD.
Okay, so Dr. Sarfarazi, got it. But here's the thing, it was shared on Facebook.
By the Consciousness and Spiritual Science Institute.
So not exactly a mainstream scientific organization, right?
Right, and that's what makes this deep dive so interesting.
It definitely sets the stage for an experience. Before we get to the prison planet stuff, can you tell us anything about Dr. Sarfarazi or this institute? What do we know about them?
Well, details are a little, scarce. But we dug around a bit. It seems Dr. Sarfarazi's background is actually in engineering and energy systems.
Really?
Yeah, kind of unexpected given the topic, right? And the institute, from what we can tell, seems to focus on, well, kind of bridging consciousness and science. You know, exploring that intersection of like spirituality and the material world.
Okay, interesting. So that already gives us a sense of where this is all coming from. But let's get to the heart of it, the prison planet idea. What's the presentation's argument? Like, why Earth? Why are we stuck here?
All right, so the core idea is that humanity is in a state of, and I'm quoting directly here, unconscious enslavement.
Unconscious enslavement. Okay, I think we need to unpack that. What does that even mean in this context?
Well, it's suggesting we're basically trapped, you know, not in a physical prison, but in a cycle of reincarnation and suffering.
Reincarnation.
Exactly.
So we die and then come back again?
Yeah, and again and again. And each time we're kind of like sleepwalking through life, unaware of our true potential, missing the bigger picture.
And the reason we're imprisoned is because of this cycle.
Exactly. The presentation argues that we're blinded by our desires, our ego, and the illusion of the material world.
Okay, so it's a spiritual prison, not a literal one.
Right. And it's rooted in this idea that we're all part of a universal consciousness, or a higher self.
And the goal is to, what? Break free.
Exactly. To achieve spiritual awakening, to like wake up from this dream and realize our true nature.
So how do we break out? How do we reach this awakening?
That's where things get a little fuzzy. The presentation isn't super clear on the specifics, but there are hints.
Like what?
Well, it stresses the importance of self-awareness. You know, really understanding our own thoughts and behaviors.
Self-reflection, basically.
Yeah, and meditation comes up a lot too.
Makes sense. Lots of spiritual traditions emphasize meditation.
Right. It's all about quieting the mind and connecting with that that universal consciousness we were talking about.
Okay, so self-awareness, meditation,
Yeah.
anything else?
Oh, and questioning things, like really questioning accepted truths.
So in a way, we're kind of doing that right now with this deep dive, right?
Totally. We're looking at this unconventional idea, this prison planet concept, and we're examining it, analyzing it.
That's a good point. We're engaging with the material without necessarily endorsing it, which, by the way, the presentation itself actually emphasizes that. It talks about sharing this information freely without seeking personal gain.
Yeah, there's this strong message against what it calls service to self only.
Interesting. Why do you think that is? What's the motivation there?
Yeah, it seems like a very altruistic motive, honestly. Like
Yeah.
there's this belief that this knowledge is valuable and it needs to be shared to help others awaken.
So it's less about personal profit, more about helping others break free from this perceived prison.
Yeah, and it ties back to that service to others idea, which, you know, is a big deal in a lot of spiritual traditions.
Right, right. Okay, so we've talked about the argument, the awakening, but I'm curious, since it's a slide presentation, what about the visuals? Did anything about the presentation style stand out?
Ooh, yeah, definitely. The slides are, well, they're pretty intense. Lots of imagery of chains, cages, blindfolds.
Wow, really laying it on thick, huh?
Yeah, they're definitely trying to drive home that feeling of being trapped. And there are tons of quotes about truth and awakening, you know, the power of consciousness.
Sounds like they're aiming for a visceral reaction, not just intellectual, but emotional too.
Exactly. Trying to hit you on multiple levels.
So for our listeners out there, what are your takeaways? We've gone through this pretty unusual, let's call it a theory. What do you think they should take away from this deep dive?
Well, I think the biggest thing is this is a unique perspective, right? It's coming from a specific spiritual framework. And it asks us to challenge our assumptions about reality. What if there's more to life than what we see and experience on a surface level?
And even if you don't buy the whole prison planet thing, it still makes you think. It pushes you to consider different viewpoints.
Absolutely. To question the nature of reality, the nature of consciousness.
And I think the most interesting question it raises is this. If Earth really were a prison planet, what would that mean for us? For our purpose? How would it change your perspective on life, on your own actions?
That's something worth pondering, even if it's just a thought experiment.
Absolutely. And maybe, just maybe, it'll spark a little bit of that awakening the presentation talks about.
Who knows? Maybe we're all just one deep dive away from breaking free.
That's a great place to leave it. Food for thought, everyone. Keep those minds open, and we'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.